but I'll go. We may be troubled, but I'll go. If the Lord needs somebody, here am I, oh Lord, send me. I'll go, I'll go, I'll go, I'll go. If the Lord needs somebody, here am I, oh Lord, send me. I'll go, I'll go, I'll go.
Can you guys hear me in the back? All right, good. 6'5", come on. I'm all right. Want to welcome everybody. It's good to see everyone here. A lot of familiar faces. A lot of familiar faces. We're here for this guy. That's my granddaddy. It's not my grandfather, it's my granddaddy. I love him. And I know all of you guys love him because he touched your hearts. We're going to let him touch our heart one more time, directly. And we're going to listen to him and his beautiful voice. So just take a moment and just remember William Roy Demus Jr.
But I'll go. We may be troubled, but I'll go. If the Lord needs somebody, here am I. Oh Lord, send me. I'll Here am I, oh Lord, send me. I'll go, I'll go, I'll go, if the Lord needs somebody, here am I, oh Lord, send me. But I'll go. We may be troubled, but I'll go. If the Lord needs somebody, here am I, oh Lord, send me. I'll go, I'll go, I'll go, I'll go. If the Lord needs somebody, here am I, oh Lord, send me. I'll go, I'll go, I'll go, if the Lord needs somebody, here am I, oh Lord, send me. in the Lord, needs somebody.
Yeah, we didn't get to see it, but it was on the live stream, so it's in posterity. I'm going to try to talk about my granddaddy a little bit. Oh, thank you. He, definition of a best friend. That's my granddaddy. And he would always say that he had a good example. And when I was a little kid, I always thought that a good example was his daddy, or maybe one of his uncles, or somebody that he knew. But his example was the example that we all have. It was our Father above. That was the number one man in his life, and he never let us forget it. He didn't throw it in your face, but that was the number one thing in his life. He exuded that. When you were in the presence of my granddaddy, you were in the presence of God. You were in the presence of a man who loved God. Some people wanted to put him on this huge pedestal. He was a man. But he was a man who loved God and wanted to do the Father's will. He'd sing about it all the time. He'd say it all the time. So many of my friends who had the pleasure of meeting my granddaddy, they would say, "Oh, your granddaddy's funny. He's such a nice guy." And I would say, "Yeah, despite everything." "What do you mean?" You got to think about where the man was from, what he went through. And he was always smiling, always. And he'd tell you to do the same. Keep smiling. Keep getting up. Could be worser. Could be worser. My granddaddy wasn't the most educated man. He wasn't learned in all these ways, but I've never met anyone smarter than him. Never. No one's taught me more truth than my granddaddy ever taught. And I have a lot of great examples of great men and women in my life. He had a great partner, Veronica Inez Demas, who he loved. That's how I learned to love her. That's how I learned to love her. That's how I learned to love all of you is from him, from them, that example. And it wasn't thrown in your face. You just saw them. What are you doing, Granddaddy? Oh, we just sitting there smiling at each other. And that's exactly what they were doing. What are you smiling about? Well, she never asked me to leave. And if you knew William Ara, there were some times that she might have wanted him to leave. She got tired of his teasing, tired of whatever he was doing, but she loved that man, and he loved her. Just a wonderful example. One other thing that he got from his mother, which I think is remarkable, was he saw your color. Yeah, you're white, you're Mexican, you're black, you're whatever, but it didn't matter. Your heart is what mattered. He saw your heart, not what you were doing, what you were involved in, the mistakes you might have been making. No. He saw your heart, and he would always encourage that. He wouldn't judge you. He was fair and he was firm, but he wasn't going to come down on you. He wanted you to know that he loved you. Again, there's an example that he got that from. Our Father, who loves us despite everything. My granddad liked to call me during the day when I was be at work. But he had a peculiar time that he'd call me. He'd be using the restroom. And I always knew it. And I would just, all right, what's up? Let's talk. And he would tell me things that he told me sometimes before. And he would always say to me, JR, you never say you repeat yourself, Granddaddy. And I said, well, I figure once I've got it, you'll stop telling me. I love you, Granddaddy. And I would like anyone that would like to come up here and say a few words about that man. Anyone that would like to.
I was glad the way JR started that because Daddy loved God because he knew God loved him. And his mother always would say to him, God loves you, baby. She made you black for a purpose. The thing for you to do is find out what it is and get busy. And unlike traditional Christianity, churchianity, whatever you want to call it, Daddy had a relationship with God. He was his best friend. And he met him while he was plowing with a mule in Texas after having been at a revival where everybody expected to have some crazy experience, and Daddy didn't get it there. But everybody expected he didn't get anyway. And his grandfather told him, son, you got all the Lord has for you right now, but he got more. You just believe. So this was like maybe a week after the revival. And he was out plowing, and he asked for a sign. He wanted, because he was believing. He did believe he'd been met by God. He just didn't have the quote-unquote outward show that many of the other people did, whether it was fake or real. He didn't do that. And so as he's plowing, he asked God, Lord, if you have met me, I want you to take that piece of cloud that's over there and take it over there. And just like that, it happened. And then, okay, you did that. If that was you, if that was really you, I want you to take another piece of cloud he had and move it somewhere else. And then that happened. Oh, so God, if you've heard my prayer, I want you to take all the clouds out of the sky. And just like that, they were all gone. And at that point, he heard worship in the trees that he'd never heard before, the heavenly host. He didn't know what it was, but he heard that worship in the trees. And he never heard that again until he walked into Grace Chapel in the 70s. And he heard that same sound of a million voices, or however many, singing praises to the living God. And I'm just thrilled that the Lord allowed him to be my dad, and I had to have a chance to be with a man who knew God, who didn't know church. He could go to any church, but he was looking for God. And if he found God, he was good. He left the Baptist church I had grown up in, and they found that he saw somebody in the grocery store one time. They said, "Why'd you leave? We haven't seen you in years." "Well, I graduated." This is what he said. I mean, he's in a grocery store. He said, "I graduated." Because he found a place where he was getting fed more of God and meeting God. He wasn't about denominational names or anything. His mother had taught him that. She taught him that. Because in the old black style, Baptist, Methodist, Assembly of Gods, whatever, Foursquare. And she said, "Baby, they all just like flowers. God's in them, or he not." And it's just a name. It's just a name. So I'm honored to have had him in my atmosphere for 15 plus years, 16 years. I've seen him almost every day for 16 years. Then I saw him for almost every day for 38 years before I moved here, because he's been that giver, the giver of life, the giver of love, the giver of knowledge, the giver of wisdom, the giver of self-respect, the giver of knowledge of self. He never made you feel small. I mean, no matter what you did, he never made you feel small. He was always about building people up. And my challenges for me, my own challenge myself, is to do the same. To be one who builds people up, to make them seek the Father who created them enough to get a touch. Just get a little touch. You get a little touch, you want more. Because when God touches you, when God gets a hold of a man, he's not the same. He lets you have your will. He lets you run. He lets you play. He lets you be you. And when he touches you, he helps you understand who you really are more. And that's what happened to Daddy. He was always himself with everybody, because God had defined him so succinctly. He knew who he was. He couldn't be swayed. You can imagine growing up with 7 brothers that did everything you didn't do. You did some of those things, but he wouldn't move by his brothers even. He wasn't ashamed of his brothers, but he wasn't going to be them. He was going to be himself. So I could tell you a trillion stories, all those repeats, repeat again, repeat. But they were all deep wisdom learned from hard experiences. I'll just say one more. I got to say this one more thing. It's because it tells me of his character. When he went into the Army during the racist period in the World War II, where you couldn't do nothing if you were a black man but cook, he was allowed to be an MP in the Army. His character shone out so strongly that he was given authority over white people, okay? Because of his character. He was an MP in Long Beach, California. And I just like, everybody should get what he got from God. That's all I'm saying. Everybody needs it. Because UBU didn't come from philosophy. It came from living it. Being true to himself. Finding Veronica. Being true to himself with her. Being true to me and my sisters. Being true to his brothers. Letting them be who they were. Years later, they come to him and say, "You did it right, son. You and Liz, you did it right." Years later, all that he was still shining bright for them as a path, because he loved them and he never condemned them. So they didn't have to hide who they were from him. But at the same time, they saw what he was, So I'm going to shut up.
I'm going to keep it short, because if I don't, I'm going to fall out.
thank you all for coming, first of all. Those of you who have known me my entire life know me, and you know why I do what I do. And none of it would be possible, yes, more, without Veronica and Roy. I don't say Roy and Veronica on purpose. There is no Roy Demus as we know him without Veronica Demas. He was a good man. The closest thing I've known, to the biblical ideal of a good man. Never in my entire life have I heard him raise his voice in anger, even to people who deserved it. I've never seen him do what America tells you manhood is. It's violence. That's your strength is your violence. It's not your compassion. It's not your ability to forgive, to put yourself into the shoes of others. And that's who Demas was. Everything about him was trying to improve everything about the people he came into contact with. That was his wealth. That was his riches on earth, was who he was, not the things that he accumulated. GR, when he first came up, said people put Demas on a pedestal. I thought the same when I first came here, that people put Demas on a pedestal. In the time that I was here, I got to realize that nobody put Demas on a pedestal. Demas built a pedestal for himself through his life work. And I got to see the parts of the pedestal that he didn't talk about. Because no man who is good was good always. You become good. You are as good as the mistakes you learn from, that you accept, acknowledge, and then discard. Refuse to be a part of you. They're the part you throw away. In the 10 years I've been here, I made sure I didn't think about this day. Because if I thought about it too much, I would not have been able to give him the level of service that he deserved, and I still wasn't able to do that. I have no idea what is next in this life for me. All I would ever know is that this was worth it. That's it. This was worth it. This was my success. Being able to give the least portion of what he was, not what he gave, just what he was. And on a final note, and on something a bit more uplifting, my niggas is here. Okay? All my niggas is here. And you white folks, too. Hi. And just so you guys know, to the niggas, because you are this close to us, y'all niggas, too. No hard R. No hard R. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. And we look forward to everything that this world has in store for us in the future, together. Next.
Thank you.
Los Angeles, Gaithersburg, and finally mostly Kelowna. These are the places around the United States that I got to hang out with my grandfather at. And you know, personally, I'm really bad with putting together, say, quotes, but I always remember the things that we did, and whether that's restaurants or often talking about places and car rides, you know, hanging out with cousins in different locations, you know, sometimes on the West Coast and a few times back home. It was certainly one of the greatest treasures that I have in my life, and something that I'll be thinking about for a long time.
Thank you, Michael.
When we were listening to Daddy sing and seeing his picture, it seems like ever since when he passed, I've just been looking for him, you know, just searching for him. And it was so good to hear him. I didn't realize how, I know I love his singing, but I realized that part of what's missing is just hearing him. You know, when I'm there with him and hearing his beautiful voice, but his love just comes through his singing. And what's been real to me since this experience is just wherever he is, I want to be. And one of the things that I don't know if doctrinally it was correct or not, but it's like I wanted to go to heaven more than I ever have in my life, because I just have to be where it is. And I think that's all right with the Lord, because he's an example of a father. It really is an example of a father, and I think it's okay that because I could see him, it's like I go, okay, I want the relationship with you that I have with him, at least, you know, and it's like, God help me, you know, to have that, because otherwise I'm just searching for him. And there's lots of things. When we would talk on the phone, I would write them down, because sometimes he'd be telling me to tell people in Grace Chapel, and sometimes it was just because I wanted to have that and to hear it. And you guys have probably heard the things yourself. That when I see that what Daddy's, I think about what he's like, it's like it's not impossible. If God did it for him, he would do it. He will do it. And it's like, God, help us. You know, you do it again. And I was sitting there, it's like I always want to hear him. I always want to be close. I want to be broken. I want to be touched by him. I do not want to, you know how you compensate and you go numb because you can't stand something. I want to be him, you know. And I want to recognize him where I see him, because I do see him. And I see him in you guys. And another thing was to, all of a sudden when he passed, you know, there's this big vacancy. But it's like, it's not a vacancy, but it was like, all of a sudden you're thinking about that generation before me. You know, like, you guys, when you got to be in the rough spot of teenagehood. You know, I was a teacher of little kids, you know. Teenagehood was, I didn't like me as a teenager, and it was hard to see you guys go through it, you know. But all of a sudden, it was like how important it is for them, you, to be who the Lord has for you. How important it is to pray for you. I don't care what you're going through. It's like, God, help me to have faith for you. And God, help me. I mean, it's got to be real. And I don't want to be religious. I don't want to be fake. I don't want to be prideful, you know, how you hide your flaws. But God, what you did for him, please do it for us. Do it for me. I'm being selfish here. Do it for me. I want to be real. And he's real. That's a picture of what God can do in a man, what he can do. And it's not something I think we can do for ourselves. But God can do it. If he did it, he will do it. It says no respecter of persons. So it's like each of us, God grant us to say, even me? Yes, even me. Amen. And let there be multiplication. And there's grace. You know how he says I'm so grateful, he said. I'm so grateful that he's a forgiving God. He'd say it over and over again, and it would go bing, you know, off of me. Because, like, it's, you know, there's maybe the timing of our lives, but you can grow up in a time when you think, you know, even like Jesus died for you can become a responsibility. You have to believe it enough. You have to do da-da-da. You have to da-da-da. You have to prove it, da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, I knew that wasn't right, but it's been when he says things like, I'm so glad he's a forgiving God. God is, was, always will be our Father. And it's like, the way that makes it real, he's the one that makes that real to me. It's like, always will be our Father. And he gave me my last whooping, one of my last, because, sorry, it's not politically correct, but we got whoopings. But no abuse, you know, but memorable. And, but there was a time we went around the table. Yeah, whoopings were always around the dining room table. Right, and you didn't run. No. But, yep. Yeah, Charles. Really? Yeah. I never know what would happen if you got caught because I didn't run. But there was two things. One was a whooping where he went outside. All my whoopings were for responsibility or the lack thereof. And he went out, you know, we had whooping. He went outside, he fed the dog. He comes in. This was the last one. I'm in the kitchen doing the thing I was supposed to do, which is why I got the whooping. And he says, you want some watermelon? You could have knocked me over because I had this mindset when somebody's mad at you, they are mad at you, and they don't offer you anything. And I hadn't had very many whoopings from him. Daddy was not one to give you a lot of whoopings. But I remember that all the rest of my life because it was like what my friend says, it's a paradigm shift. The relationship is never broken. It's never broken. I had the other paradigm of the relationship is always broken when you don't do right, and you never keep doing right. So, but the one was when I was getting this last whooping at 14, and I'm going around the table, and I'm saying in my head, I'm 14 years old, and this shouldn't really be happening, and da-da-da-da-da, because I'm, you know. And then I looked at his eyes, and for the first time, I saw all this love. And it was like, he loves me. He's not going to let me grow up wild. He's not going to let me grow up. And it was like, I didn't have all the words for it, but it was like, he's not going to have me lacking. He's not going to have me like a victim of the whatever comes and influences me. It's just because, and it was, you know, it was like so real. And I want that to be so real to me that I won't deny the discipline of God in my life. I won't seek hiding places. And I won't try to do it myself, because you can't. You really, really can't. And it even makes it worse. So I'm so glad you guys are here. I'm so glad you know him, because he's such a gift. And I got to get one of those pictures. Even though we don't know him after the flesh, I think that the picture reminds us of him. I want him ever before me. And then I want it to transition to the Lord is ever before me, so I can know him and I can know where I'm going when it's my turn, and not have just fear of trying, because he didn't try. And God did it for him. So
call him Daddy Demas. I'm his son-in-law, and I got the privilege of knowing him for probably a little bit over 40 years. And I remember when me and Debbie was going out, and sometimes it was difficult times in our relationship. But I always remember when I had met them, it's like I always want, not that I don't want the relationship that we had, but I knew I would be missing something if I ever lost them, that relationship. It was like, I don't want to lose that relationship. And I remember after we got married, I think, before we got married, I think I met her mom first, and it was actually we was in D.C., and some reason Debbie and her dad had to go in a separate car, and me and her mom was in the vehicle, and kind of had a son-in-law, pre-son-in-law, mother-in-law talk, and I just told her my heart, I'm not out to run a game or do, I'm just myself, and I love her, and I respect her, and I think ever since that talk, I really won her heart, and I think Daddy was a little bit, maybe not trusting a man, and I remember after we got married, they were both concerned, and I said, look, I actually promised her, I said, I'll take care of your daughter, and that after that, it's like, it just really lifted something as far as his concern, their concern for me. But I always, like Jonathan said, I just see him as one person. I mean, I don't just see Daddy and, separate from Veronica, because he always talked about her. He said, this is my lady, and I watched the example of how he treated her and how he loved her and how they enjoyed one another. And I'm not saying it was perfect, but it was just an example that you can watch and observe, and says, oh, wow, this is how a man's, I had an example in my parents, but it was awesome to see their example, of what a relationship should be, in what a relationship is supposed to be. But I'm just really honored that I got the time to spend with them. I mean, it's a privilege. And one thing that he always shared, not just with me, but with other people, is how important family is. And that's the same thing my parents shared with me. And so I knew that we couldn't just be with them, live, in the same area. But the closest thing is, when most of the times Debbie wanted to spend a lot of time with her, I wouldn't restrict her. I says, no, I'm your husband, spend all the time with me. It's like, no, if you want to go out, like Debbie taught was a teacher. And so in the summer, if she wanted to spend a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, sometimes a month or more, it's like, I never had a problem. And some people say, well, your wife's gone, she's going to be gone 3 weeks. It's like, yeah. She used to see her dad, see my mom and dad. I never had a problem with that. And Debbie can testify. If you want to go, whatever, it could be 2 months sometimes. It was fine, because I know that meant the world to him. His family meant everything to him. And like I say, I'm just so, it was such a privilege. I remember even at work when I was having difficulties or whatever, I could share things with him what do you think about this situation? This, you know, how would you handle this? Like, he give me advice, you know, even things at church. It's like, this is, you know, just fatherly advice. I mean, it's not to disregard my father, but he was a father figure to me. I mean, he taught me a lot by example, and a lot by what he said, and the example he showed me. And like Michael said, we took Michael. I mean, it was really important for Michael to know his grandfather. I mean, so when Debbie went, a lot of times Michael was there during the summer, you know, and during these different places, Los Angeles, Pennsylvania, Iowa, you know, and not only that, but Debbie was there with, got to know my family quite a bit, and they called her sister. In fact, we invited them to watch the ceremony, a lot of my family, so they're probably watching at the same time, but because they very much consider her a sister. I mean, very, very much. And I remember even probably a couple years ago, I said, Daddy, you know, I took care of your daughter. And he says, yeah, you took care of her better than you took care of yourself. So that was like a joke. I said, yeah. But I said, yeah. But we had some really, really good times together. I mean, I remember one time we was up in Pennsylvania, and it snowed so bad that they closed the Pennsylvania Turnpike. We couldn't even see 3 feet in front of us, and the windshield wipers was falling apart. It's like we couldn't even see the pull over the side of the road. And finally, we probably drove maybe 4 or 5 miles that way. We could have got killed or anything, and we finally went to this one gas station that was open, and they just happened to have, well, they didn't have the same wiper blades, but they had a blade. I said, just give me any kind of blade. And we put it on, and it was enough to get us out of danger. But yeah, it's so many good times and so much a blessing that they've been. It's like I just really cherish the memory of to me, it's not like he's gone. He's still with, I keep telling Debbie, I said, he's still here. They're still here, you know? I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but it's not like, oh, it's just they're completely gone. They're not, you know. They're in our memories, they're in our hearts. And so anyway, I just want to share that.
All the way down.
Yeah. That's the only part that's different between me and you, yeah.
Much better hair.
Who's that lady? Nothing but the heat. Sounds like more. You guys taste like more? Okay. Do you all know it? I had to represent, because I'm the other nigga. Word. You guys. I didn't know what I was going to say. I just wanted to represent, because I am a part of this family. You all are a part of this family. That's why you're here. Papa Demas made us his family. I called him Papa Demas. You guys call him Daddy Demas. Daddy, Papa, Papa San. He touched our hearts. And you guys touch our hearts. You don't realize how much you become extension of him. Love you all. I know I'm your sisters. Remember when I came to Southgate? I was just a little kid yet. And just out of being a teenager, I met these guys. Derry and all her kids. I couldn't believe it. I was like, these are all your children. Oh my God. But Papa's daddy always taught us how to be family. Yeah. You be you. nothing like that, a kind of acceptance. It's like my kids. You know you guys love me. And the sisters. So this is a celebration of life. Thank you, Daddy, for being who you were, who you are. Yeah. May it continue as we live our lives.
How y'all doing? We holding up, right? I don't know if y'all remember, our granddaddy pretty much raised us too. We got a daddy. We love our daddy. But every time our daddy wasn't holding it down or ran into the kind of hard times that the world will hand a black man in this world, Granddaddy opened up his house. Grandmama opened up her house. They took us in 2nd grade, 4th grade, 6th grade. Shoot, I was 15. I had to have spinal surgery. He opened up his house. He gave me his bed to sleep on. Him and Grandma slept in the back for 2 months. He'd always say, "You ain't gonna learn no younger." And what he was telling you was, get it while you can. I always thought he kept opening his house back up because he felt sorry for us, because him and our dad didn't get along that good. But he did it because he wanted us around. He did it because that's what family does. And he taught us that. And then we became men, and we opened up our homes and our hearts. A bunch of random white folks, like this dude right here. Who are now our family. The love that he taught us was so strong that our lifetime relationships were built around an awareness of what he was. That's my brother. Because of that man. It's also his grandson. It's not a whole lot to say. Just do it. He didn't say a whole lot. But if you use the example that he gave us and just do it, you can be pretty much assured that you're doing what God gave you to do. And I thank him more than anything. And Veronica, go on back and get you a switch from the tree. Make it a good one. You bring the little one, she gonna break off half that tree and whip you with that. Not that I know from experience or nothing. All right, I do. And I thank Debbie pointing out that them whoopings was life. Because, man, think about what would have happened if you wouldn't have learned from that lesson, if you wouldn't have got that whooping, and they let you go on out in the world and become that sucker. And he wasn't going to see you in the streets being that sucker. I'd take a whooping from him right now if I needed it. Because he never did anything except out of love. And he taught us all that. And every single person whose life he touched is a better person for him having touched it. He's the only person I can say that about that I know for sure. But I have no hesitation, and I'll go to my grave saying that. He was the best man I've ever known. And I'm truly thankful that he shared himself with all of us. And we love y'all for it too. We thank you guys for it too. He's living on, not just in us, but in everybody that's in here, and in all the thousands and thousands of people whose lives he touched. Yeah. And in that way, although we did see a library burned to the ground, many of those words are still written on our hearts. Yeah. And so that treasure is now in us, and it is up to us to do like he said, and do like he did. You be you.
Yes.
Love you, man.
Excuse me. I was given a beautiful opportunity to know this family and to be accepted by Daddy and to have so many uncles that I cherish. And to be able to go and learn from him, and John, and JR, and David. It helped me learn how to love my mom, how to be a young man, and direct who I want to model myself after. And he was so kind. And always asked me if I had treats for him.
Okay.
And sometimes I would, and John would not be very happy. Just timeless moments spent with you all that I'm grateful for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, some of the things you guys said, I just had to get up and say something. Daddy D for me, he's like part of the roll call of faith, and I hope that ain't putting him on a pedestal, but that's just who he is. Reminds me of John in Eleanor. Reminds me of Winona Anderson. Awesome people, pillars in this earth. But I just wanted to say a couple light things, funny things, hopefully. I just want to say that I was probably around all you guys maybe 10 minutes, and I wanted to be a Beatty. I wanted to be a Demas. And that's about how long it took, and that's how long I've been a part of your family. And I'd be proud to tell anybody I'm a Demas and I'm a Beatty, because I am. You know, you talk about he's still here. Well, he's still here because his legacy's right here, this whole family. And that's, to me, that's why he's still here. That's the legacy. I love being a Beatty. being a Demas. It's who I am. Now, some of the fun stuff, just real quick. Some of my funnest times at Daddy D was up at the North Liberty Church. So on Wednesdays, we had a Bible study, and we always had a meal beforehand. And so Daddy brought Daddy D up there all the time. And sometimes I'd be teaching it, so I always made sure I sat by Daddy D, especially while I was eating, because I always liked to slip him something he wasn't supposed to eat. And it would always settle me down, for whatever I was having to do. But not once did he ever say, no, I ain't supposed to eat that. He ate everything I gave him. Yeah, enjoyed it immensely. But I love being around him. If I was teaching or whatever I was doing, he always had a good word for me. He always said, what you said meant me. You be you. You just keep being you. But he always had an encouraging word for wherever you was at, whatever was going on in your life. And that is gold. It's you just don't have that in the earth. We don't have enough of it. We need to duplicate it. We need to see it spread. And that's who you guys are. That's how you feel to me. I'm telling the food thing for you. 'Cause I didn't want to write that down. I wanted to tell you. Just one of my fun times. I'm ornery. He's ornery, man. He's a trickster. So anyway, I love him dearly. I don't feel like I'm ever, as long as I'm with all you guys, he's right here. He's right here in my midst. And I'm an expression of that myself.
I had the pleasure to work with both Veronica and Bill Demas. I was the in-home provider for them.
She's our sister too. Yeah. I'm sorry, he's their sister. That's my aunt right there.
I've had my up and downs working with them through my family and theirs, and they always worked with me with it. They always say a care providing is supposed to be like washed away, but it's not. You never. It's very different not getting up every day to come to Kelowna every. Thank you for allowing me to be taking care of your grandparents, your dad, your grandma. I'm gonna miss you guys very much.
You're staying in touch. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. So I just want to say, Amanda was probably one of the best things that happened to your father in the later years. She put up with everything. Okay, Amanda, we thank you for that very much. Okay. So anyway, there's no doubt, I had to write some stuff down as I was sitting there, but the man was the man. There's no doubt about that. I think if we were same age, we'd have been going on the court, going on the golf range, we'd have been competing. It was always, we had that kind of relationship. It was always a battle between me and him. So, and I loved him for that. He dealt with me, he always took my joking, but one thing is he, like everybody been saying, he's gonna be around forever, okay? Because, I know my sons with, kids are even saying some of the things he says, and they're gonna start repeating it. So it'll just go on and on and on, and you will be going on forever, or whatever, even with the, the late for dinner thing and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, exactly. But, like I said, we had this good relationship until one day, I remember him saying, "Yeah, Randy, you're the best son-in-law I ever had." But then I stepped outside and heard him tell Ken the same thing. Okay, so I was done with the man at that point, okay? I said, no, okay. Well, maybe he meant for both of us. So I'm assuming he meant that. But anyway, we know the man, us close with him, really close with him, know the man could be a pain. Absolute pain. All you had to do was look in his wife's face sometime. And you knew, okay, so I'm all right with saying he's a pain, because looking at that look, he's a pain. So yeah, we dealt with that, and he was a pain sometimes, but we all knew that. Ken, that mother-in-law talk, I had that talk. Well, no, it wasn't the same thing, no. I never thought I would take care of a daughter or anything like that. But and we were driving on the freeway in CEG 018, which these guys know that was one of their cars, there's license plate. We were driving to the freeway to see my wife, or Deirdre, with Jeremy. And I was driving through, we didn't talk much, but she says, "It looked like you're going like 70 miles an hour." I said, "No, that's just the speedometer." Because we're going uphill. And she says, "No, I think you're going 70 miles an hour." And so I said, okay. So I slowed it down to, back then in California, it was 55, but anyway. And actually I learned something from her. I said, well, if you're going 70, you're going 70, regardless. But I always used to tell this man that, dude, you can't retire at 55 and live to 98. The government is going to send a hitman after you. Social Security is going to send a hitman after you. And your pension people are going to send somebody. Because, you can't double your lifespan and get, money from these people. They just don't like that. But no, he just kept ignoring me. But okay, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but because I said enough with your mother, and I don't want to say too much. I thought I'd give him a little something. But I just one quick story. I remember when we were kids. I had just drove down from Stockton, California. It's like 300 miles from where they live in L.A. And I said, "Hey, why don't you go take a nap?" And so I went in the a little house, bedroom in the back, and I'm laying there sleeping. Next thing I know, right on my head, it was your grandmama. Yeah, it was his mother saying, "You can't sleep right here." I said, "Oh, okay." And he actually came back there and said, "Oh, he's tired, he's trying to take a nap." No, he can't sleep right here. He lost that battle. Yep, I had to get up. And however, from that time period on, I knew this man had my back. Because, he knew I was tired. He knew I needed to sleep. And, his mother was having nothing to do with that. Huh. But, Oh, she was mean. Yeah, I the last time I was here, I told him she didn't like me. So, but yeah, this, you know, like I said, me and him had a great relationship. I miss the old dude from battering back and forth. You know, some of the best times was when I would get him to do that smile bigger than that. You know, when he, you know, I'll say something, he'll, you know, start laughing. But Digital was saying the other day, the time when she liked the best is when somebody stumped him. Oh, that don't happen much. And when somebody stumped him, he'll go back to that, well, who am I? Or you be you, or something. He'll get that, he'll get the, he'll put that puzzled look on his face and say, I think he got me. But that's what you tried to do, because the man always had an answer. So, yeah, I used to sit at that table and just think of stuff. But yeah. So like I said, you know, you cannot be sad, all right? There's no reason to be sad. He's a good man. He'll live with us forever, you know. And, yeah, he's lived with us forever. He's a good man. He's just not here. We can't hug him. We can't slap him. We can't, you know, do those kind of things. But, you know, old man Demas, I used to call him old man. Everybody else called him Papa or Daddy or whatever. I called him old man because, you know, that was one of those competition things. However, just recently, I don't know if you were on the speakerphone, I said, dang, I just had my 64th birthday. I guess we both old men now. So yeah, I said, well, I guess you can call me old man too. But anyway, but he took it, you know, right. I remember your mother sent me a birthday card. She, I forget how she signed her name, but she said, and the old man. So yeah. But, you know, he's a good old dude. He'll be around for a while.
Has worked for me for probably about 60 years or so. So I had a chance to be over at Daddy Demas and his wife's a lot of times. The one thing that I found almost unbelievable was that guy's lack of any bitterness and anger. And if he lived through the height of racism and probably only getting the second or the third shot at a job or something like that. And I was always, there was a positiveness that came out of his heart. There was an embracing of others. And I just go, wow. You know, and that can only be God. And only God's going to be able to provide that to a person. But you have to accept it. You have to want it. And he's a real example to the family. And that's a legacy that all of you will have to tap into, because forgiveness doesn't come easy. But he showed an example, and you guys are very blessed and fortunate.
Okay. So, Daddy D, your dad, granddad, sorry, he's going to be granddad with me. His heart was something that you don't get to replace, but you do get to live it on. And Derry and I would always talk about who had the best dad. We're both like, we got good dads, and we both did, you know, and my dad went a few years earlier. He was 2014,
But, you know, the love he had is, you know, you guys are here for it. And let's see, I like that thing where I don't have his voice by any stretch of the imagination, probably don't have anything of a voice. But, you know, he would sing that, he sees all you do, he's there watching over you, right? I so loved that when he would do that. And I hope you guys have that recorded somewhere. But you know, that was that. And then there was one Wednesday night going up for Bible study. Derry was already up in the Iowa City area. And so I said I'd bring Daddy up. And so we're driving, and it's Christmas time, so I've got a Christmas CD out. And you know, so you know how big the man is, right? And sitting in my seat. So he starts tapping it out on his knees. But it was the most fun time, you know, I had with him. And it's been a privilege to be part of your family. And I'm glad to see Charles and Adam. I can now tell you guys apart forever. Try. Somebody had you and JR confused. Okay, anyhow, love you guys.
Just real brief, no one's ever made me feel more loved every time. You guys do the same. It's a legacy that I just want to be like. It was wisdom every time I talked to him. It was love. And you guys personify that too, and I just love all you guys.
I just want to thank Daddy Demas for the man he is and still is, and his spirit. The depth that he has. I know there's no one good but the Father, but he's a close second. And I had a privilege of being all these guys, my brothers and sisters. And I know it's because of this guy, his impartation, who he is, and Veronica, because like you guys said, there wasn't one without the other. So I just want to thank you, Daddy Demas, and the family that you've created.
I will keep this very short, but I have known Daddy Demas ever since Southgate. And as a teenager myself, we'd be doing different projects. And he and a guy named Leo Wilson, Pappy Wilson, they would come around and they would just stand there and just talk to us, relate to us, encourage us in whatever project we were working on. But it meant so much to me. And I haven't had a lot of contact with all of you kids, but one thing that so impresses me is that regardless of whether I'm at JW's in Kelowna or up in Iowa City or Coralville, I know a Beatty. They know Aaron's mom. You haven't had a lot of interaction or contact with me, but you guys have an honor and a respect for me that only comes because of him, and more so her, and also her, because I've been around her more, but mostly this guy. because you guys know that I love him and his wife. And that just, and also I was with a friend in town, and clear across the street, you know, we identified each other. And you came up and said hi, and what came out of your spirit to my friend totally ministered something that defined more than what I could even say, you know. And then I had a friend at Passover, and you had brought Daddy Demas one more time. And I explained to that friend the background with him, and he was blown away and so met, and he wanted me to convey to you guys the privilege that he had of just meeting you that one night. And so even more than what you guys know, you affect change. You affect people. And I just want all of you guys to know that I love you, and something in me just lights up whenever I see you. I saw you in Coralville the other day, you and one of your kids, and we didn't have a chance to interact, but I just go, there they are. And then at 4th of July, you know, I met you and got to talk to you, and that was awesome. And just the reception that you guys give me, you don't even know me that much, but you know me as Aaron's mom, and you have a total respect and love for me that I just don't feel all the time. So I just bless that to you guys.
So we're here for my grandfather, and I just wanted to say a few things to let you all know. So, you know, it's Demas. And so his parents or someone introduced that man to the Lord. Okay? So through that, it was allowing a lot of other things for him to become. He could have just been a farmer or whatever would have been defined in his earthly ways. But his mother and father and his brothers and sisters and people in his life, they helped him find the Lord. That was a gateway for all of us. If you were shown what was imparted to him and what he had to bring back to the earth, from the smallest encounter with the dogs in his yard to a stranger that he had to share just a moment. And it could have been the smallest little thing. My grandfather would be in various ages in my life, but always in my life. And he would say, remember, I'd take you and your sister and your brother to Lucky, and he needed me to remember that it was a simple thing for him, but he knew how much it meant to all of us. Demas was my grandfather. We called him Granddaddy because of the deeper meaning. And just, that's nomenclature, that's a terminology, but he knew the deeper meaning. The relationship with my grandfather allowed me to meet his siblings, and a few of his siblings kind of resembled him in a way to where those men were from that generation. So I get to meet my grandfather, and I get to meet his brothers, which means I got to meet some of the most imparting kind of love, and just a simple way for them to let me know was just being them. So I guess that's the little part of the UBU. That was his thing that he gave to all of us. But his siblings, in his life, someone gave that to him, and he always would give it back to you. He would let you know that in any separation, that's the thing that could probably bring you back together. Well, I have family all over this country now that aren't here, and they're looking at me, and they're looking at all of us, and they're loving us from the least to the small, and they are here with us too because of him. My grandmother passed away, and it was in a moment in my mom's life to where she could have been there more because she was retired and she had help from all of us. And my grandfather, he wore that like until the moment he was gone, he was not ready to give up. And that was his meaning. He had lived a life before that, and it was the Lord, and then it was Veronica, and then it was Veronica and the Lord, and his relationship with all of us. It was just an example for his impartation of what his walk with God was in his life to share with all of us. So if you didn't get to meet him, I am right here. My daughter is here with her mother, and I'm here, and everyone else is here that met him. And I'm willing to share in my way anything that I can that he was, because it would be very unfair. It would be very unfair. It's like he would say these little things about Texas and Pasadena and places that he went, and he would say that was what the Lord had given to me. And I knew it was like, man, this man is so humble. He wowed every person in those situations. It was like he was given what the Lord gave to him, and he was so easily willing to give that to you and share. I thank everyone for being here in physicality and in any other realm. And I don't know if I was gonna say anything, and Jay made some jokes, and it's like I keep thinking everyone in the room, and I keep thinking all the things that I would or could have said, and it was definitely after my brother Paul came up here, because he experienced what I experienced before. We have lost the earthly bodies of some of the most powerful pillars and examples of the Lord, and his grandparents and my grandparents, and so many that have not been named that we've all been a part of, and we should all just remember that. That is our example. That is the simple thing in our lives that we can try to just emulate. And I thank you all, and I love you all very much. Thank you very much.
Hi. I'm the smallest grandchild. I was debating whether or not to say anything, and I think I've cried enough in my seat that I'm not going to cry in front of you. Talking in front of people is not my thing. Crying in front of people is even worse. I just want to say, like, he was one of the funniest people I knew. And, like, the time that I really enjoyed with him was, like, actually in the later years when we were both adults and we could just sit around and riff. Sometimes I would, like when his wife died, I somehow ended up, like, sleeping on his couch for 2 weeks. Just not great. Like, he's coming out and telling me the same story over and over again while John's hiding in the garage because he knows the score. But even though he tended to repeat himself, he would go through all my cousins' names before he got to my name. But then he would just, like, out of nowhere, just have, like, a joke, like, out of nowhere. Like, you'd just be like, okay, when I remember in particular, this is going to be embarrassing for me, but I ran a marathon. It took me 5.5 hours because I didn't train for it. And so I told him that I ran this marathon, and I told him that it took me 5.5 hours, and he said, "Did you stop for lunch?" I wish I had. Probably would have more energy to finish. Anyway, between this guy and Randall over here, I couldn't have asked for like better male role models. And I mean, I credit him and Gammy, that's what I called her, at least in part for the fact that I have such a solid family today. And like, it's hard to believe he's gone, because a year ago, we were out here, like, he's like, I'm gonna die. Then he went home. And I was like, I'm pretty sure he did that for the attention. So I was kind of hoping that was what was going on this time, but it's not. Just always assumed that he was just gonna be around forever. But it's obviously not true. And I'm glad to be here to say goodbye to him with all of you.
I'm one of many of the extended family. I thought I would not, I knew I'd come up here and cry. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm not really sure if I ever quite conceptualized the magic that I felt in the love in this family. I've been close with the Beatty siblings. And I've never been a religious person that has a relationship with a defined Lord necessarily. But I've always been a very spiritual person. And now I kind of realized kind of part of the magic and space that was taken up in my heart by meeting each and every one of you and the experiences we've had, the time and love that we've shared, is that central line. That spiritual, godly grace. I'm so happy that the last time I saw him, I poked fun at him all afternoon. It was Adriana's second birthday, I believe. And I remember that day, but what I really remember was ribbon Daddy, because I certainly would take the opportunity. and I was always one that, I'm ornery too. Yeah, I find one that's ornery, I want to be just as ornery as that one, and I'll get him. I'm grateful. And I think I just like to offer a little song. Just a simple, short. It's called Long Time Son. I'll stand back a bit, because may the long-time sun shine upon you. Oh, love surround you, and the purer light within you guide your way home. Guide your way home. May the long-time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the purer light within you guide your way home. Guide your way home.
This is a family that calls me sis. There are many sisses, I know that. But thank you for letting me be among those. And your daddy once said to me in California, he said, he looked at me, he met me many times. But out there, wasn't used to seeing me there. He looked at me, he grabbed my arm, I was walking by, and he said, I know you. And I said, yes, you do. And he said, you're my daughter's friend. I said, yes, I am. I live by all you kids. I heard you preach the word when you were young. I heard you sing songs. My kids took an offering over and put it under your door. One time, I don't know if you remember. But I'm just saying, your family knows me, and I know you all, and I love you with all of my heart. And I know you'll always remember that. And I'll always remember you in my heart. And you're welcome in my home anytime. Always. Find me, and I'll find you. Bless you all.
I don't know what to say. There's things I could say, but I figured it's worse to sit in the chair than to get up here and not say something about your dad and your grandfather. And maybe I could be even more irritating by telling you guys something you need to hear that he would have said, probably did say, well, you guys testified to it, and that is, you guys have so much sitting here and listening to you talk. You guys got so much inside you, who you are, and who you've become, and if you feel like you have something to say and you don't say it, that's not really good. Don't do that. Some of you guys need to really talk more. And you have a lot to give, and people need to hear you and what you have to say and give people. So, thank you. I'm so glad I was here, and I'm looking forward to David taking me out to lunch.
I'll just say something short too, because I'm not good at this. But I was telling Derry yesterday that I just miss holding his hand every time. Every time I would go there and talk to him, he always held my hand, and it was so soft and gentle, and I felt safe with Demas, and I just felt calm and peaceful. And he was just, I don't know, I never felt like I was impeding on him ever. And he always gave the credit to someone else as far as even just who he was, whether it was God or his wife. You know, he even said, you know, if she never kicked me out, never told me to leave. Always, you know, and he's even in the small things. He's not even saying, you know, it was because of who I was. It was always people were gracious to me and people gave to me. And I think part of what made him so great is because he accepted it. he accepted all the great things that people wanted to give to him, and the love that people gave to him. He accepted it, and I think that's part of what made him so great.
Important. Yes. Hey, didn't know I was going to come up here and say anything either, but Rick Carr kind of. Yeah, so I just wanted to say how Daddy always made me happy. He always made me smile. Just he was sunshine. He was my sunshine. And yeah, yeah, C2 used to sing that with him. But yeah, he gave. And he showed me what a man was. Yeah, yeah. And I think that he helped show my husband what a man could be, and by extension, my children. And of course, all of you guys. And like everybody else has said, everybody who he touched got something to take away. Yeah. And hearing his voice and looking at that picture, it just, thank you, Derry. That was priceless. Yeah. Yeah. So that's all. Love you, Daddy. Love you guys.
I was still thinking about it on the basketball court.
Here comes Geek.
It's your fault, Rick. But I've got to say one thing. This is a fabulous family. I thoroughly enjoy being with them. I worked with JR for quite a few years, and he was very gracious to me to invite me to the family Thanksgiving dinners. I've had a few. I met your grandmother years ago, and then I was at this last one, past year, and I didn't want to go. I dragged my feet. Then my boss, Jay, he wouldn't let me sit. He, in fact, came to my apartment, walked through the door, and yanked me out. So I went to Thanksgiving, and I'm so glad I did. And what a wonderful, gracious family. Because I'm a Canadian, I'm here for Shiloh. I don't have any family around me, and the Canadians have Thanksgiving at a different time anyway. So here I was, an orphan, basically, and JR, and Derry, you invited me in. And Derry blessed me by, I wasn't feeling well, so here she got some pills, and she's a sweetie, she's a mama. But what a wonderful family. And I enjoyed this old guy walking through the halls of Shiloh. And every once in a while I'd try and get some dirt on JR, but he wouldn't be anything but kind to his grandson. So he'd, oh darn, missed again. But he was such a wonderful man to know. And when I was over there, I got him to talk about his history and his family, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. But I thoroughly enjoyed the family. And thanks for having me for Thanksgiving. It's all your fault, Rick.
I had to come back up because I have one son who wasn't able to make it, and he's been following it, and I just want to give you his input. He was togetherness. He brought people together. He made the us become closer with cousins and family. He said it meant the world to, I'll just read his quote. It meant the world that he came to my graduation. He gave advice to Conley and P. Moeller, there's two of his best friends, that they still remember, and they sent in condolences. And his legacy is truly just starting.
Oh, that was wonderful. I think you guys can catch the general theme of what everybody had to say about Granddaddy. It's just family. It's just family. I mean, 24 kids? 21 kids? 4 sets of twins. And it's just grown exponentially. And it's going to continue to grow. He taught us that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to treat them like family because they are your family. You are my distant cousin. Sorry. Stuck with me. I got a lot from this man, and I'm going to continue to get more. And all that I got from him, I give it to you because that's what he did. He didn't hold back. We're going to do one of his favorite things, which is worship the Lord. We invite everybody to sing along with us. Yes. I'm not going to sing to the mic because I'm too bad. Closer to you, Lord, than we've ever been before. Reaching out for you to lead us on. Sing Not My Will, but Thine Be Done. Not my will, but Thine be done, so that the fullness of the Son Yes.
But I'll go. We may be troubled, but I'll go. If the Lord needs somebody, here am I, oh Lord, send me. I'll go, I'll go, I'll go, I'll go. If the Lord needs somebody, here am I, oh Lord, send me. I'll go. I'll go. I'll go. If the Lord needs somebody, here am I, oh Lord, send me. I'll go. Oh Lord, send me. I'll go. I'll go. I'll go. I'll go. If the Lord needs somebody.
So we're going to be hanging out, doing what families do, talking, smiling at each other for a little while. And you guys are all welcome. Thank you.